everybody, and welcome to the Good for Business podcast. My guest this week is my buddy, Clay Hahn. Clay Hahn is in the ownership of Burnham Hahn Pest Control over in Tuscaloosa, Golden Triangle Pest here in the Golden Triangle. And we're going to talk everything pest control, entrepreneurship, growing up in a family business, and, of course, professional wrestling.
Absolutely. Bingo, bingo, bingo.
Welcome to the show, and woo!
Yeah. Woo! You got to wait. You can't do it early in the morning. You got to wait till a little bit in the afternoon so your voice doesn't scratch as much, So you can do that. I wish I could do a Ric Flair impersonation, but and everybody wants to do Macho Man Randy Savage. And I wanted, in my B&I presentations, I wanted to do like the Macho Mosquito is coming into your house, oh yeah, and all that stuff. So a little fun from the start.
We'll have to get into wrestling and mosquitoes very soon.
Yeah. I got a good Dusty Rhodes impersonation. I actually did this for a commercial, a radio commercial in Tuscaloosa, and let me do it for you real quick. Just start off from the beginning, just go straight to the wrestling thing. Is like, and this is my Burnham Pest Exterminators company in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. But I was doing Dusty Rhodes. If Dusty Rhodes was still alive, he says, "The mosquitoes are causing hard times on your family, Daddy. You can't have your Sunday school parties. You can't have your weddings. You can't have your church parties because mosquitoes bring hard times on your family. So pick up that phone today. Dial 553-4433. Press and send, and let Burnham Pest Exterminators put some serious pain on the mosquito population." You got to emphasize that pain. So anyway, that's fun.
Pretty good. That's like we can do imitations. I don't know. Like I said, you can't do the big 5-6 guys, but
yeah, that's right. But I wish I could do a Ric Flair, and then Macho Man. Everybody tries to do a Macho Man because almost everybody can go like that.
Yeah, you got to have some depth to your.
Yeah, and then Hogan. What you gonna do, brother? And you can do all that kind of stuff too. So, was you a big wrestling fan growing up?
Just for two different times in my life, WrestleMania, mid to late '80s.
Right. Oh yeah, that was the prime time.
When it blew up, and we didn't really have cable in the 90s. And then, of course, I got back into it when all my friends in high school and college, I guess, late 90s, early 2000s.
Right. Oh, yeah, that came in again.
And then Stone Cold was sort of my
absolutely.
Point. So,
if you're a redneck, Stone Cold is your hero, So
yeah, and then, really, they didn't jump the shark, but when it was, what do they call it? Not the Attitude Era? Yeah, like when Stone Cold and The Rock were kind of peeking out pre-John Cena, I think.
Yeah,
I wasn't watching every week, but I just liked the absurdity.
Right. Yeah. And then they had the Monday Night Wars with the WWE and the WCW, and them going back and forth on that, and which goes to show, you're talking about good for business. It was business reasons why one of them beat one of the other ones.
Well, I liked. I guess I can say that if there was 2 years where I was watching it once a month. As more as an adult was when Sting was jumping from the rafters. And
stuff. Sting was Mr. what you would call WCW on that side. What was his name? They call him the franchise because he was all WCW, and then. So those are the good old days. They bring back some of the good memories. And the funny thing is, you get on women about have their soap operas and everything, but that's all wrestling is just a male soap opera, And now you're coming up on WrestleMania and the bravado and they try to pick a different city every year to have it at, but they had such a good turnout in Las Vegas last year that they're trying to do it again in Las Vegas this year, and the thing that they're struggling with is because their ticket prices are so high this year. So they even had some wrestlers come on the show Monday night and talk about, hey, you need to lower your ticket prices and make fun of the big dogs who were doing that just to kind of. I think it's all a play. It's all a strategy to lower them so people will come to it because it's not a cheap ticket out there. So.
Yeah, I would imagine back in the early 2000s there would be somebody some heel would come out and make fun of you for being so broke, like Ted DiBiase or something. Like, you're so broke you can't afford to come.
That's right. Yeah. So that'd have been. I like Ted DiBiase too. He was funny. He was funny.
I was wondering. I told my wife this morning. I said, I don't know how long it'll take us to devolve into just talking about wrestling, and we haven't even talked about anything else. So I met Clay through BNI, which is Business Networking International. I think he's the sixth person I've had on the podcast who's in our group.
Yeah, it's great.
And we meet every Thursday at Events Off Fifth. There's about 30 of us in the group. It's just I tell people it's like Rotary, except we're very intentional about business, about giving each other business and helping each other out.
Right.
But so tell me about your growing up in Alabama, working for a pest control company.
Right.
How young were you crawling under houses? And
wow. Yeah. Well, I was a lot smaller when I was crawling up under houses too, though. So we get old and whatever. But so I grew up in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. My granddad fought in World War II, and he was in he was from a little place called Aniana, Alabama, and a little community within there called Cleveland, Alabama, which nobody knows where that is. And so after the war, he was like, well, he's working for a pest control company in Birmingham, and he thought he always was entrepreneur, wanted to kind of start something. I mean, only had like a 6th grade education or whatever. And so he came to Tuscaloosa. And this is kind of a cool story that not a whole lot of people know. He ran into a football coach at Alabama, and his name was Coach Burnham. And Coach Burnham was a real famous high school football coach in the 30s. And then he came to be like the freshman football coach at Alabama. Because we don't know if you know, way back in the day, they'd have these freshman teams along with the varsity team. So like in my Alabama world, if Kenny Stabler was on the freshman team, Joe Namath was, 3 years ahead of him. He was the starting quarterback. So the freshman team at Alabama would play the freshman team at Mississippi State and Ole Miss and all that kind of stuff, And then in the regular season, they would play. So anyway, but he met Coach Burnham, and they started a company together. They called it Burnham Hahn, Burnum, and my last name is Hahn, Hahn, put a little dash in between it, Burnham Hahn Exterminators. And so Coach Burnham was like, hey, I know everybody in town. I'll get you the business. And my granddad was like, and he was just the general manager, and Coach Burnham owned 51%, and my granddad owned 49%. And after a few years, my granddad bought them out, and then a lot of times if you have an established name, you just keep the name, And so there's businesses over here in Columbus and in Tuscaloosa where it's got the original founder's name, and neither one of them are in the business anymore. But they keep the established name because of the community and the presence and all that kind of stuff. So he started that in 1946. Same year my dad was born. And so my dad turned 80 last Monday. And so we've been in business for 80 years. This is our 80th year in business over in Tuscaloosa. And just, we advertise that we are home-owned and operated. We don't just designate somebody else to run the show. But, my granddad running it. My grandparents have passed away, and my dad's 80, my mom's 77. And Dad comes to work every day. And I'm the oldest and have a sister that's 2 years younger than me. And she kind of manages the office and the secretaries and the operations and all that kind of stuff. And my brother is 8 or 9 years younger than me, and he's a little skinny guy, so he can chase everything down and crawl up under houses and handle all that kind of work. And I go to all the B&Is and try to be the face of the business, but that's really hard to do sometimes. But do all that, and it's fun. It's challenging. Hey, working with families, you got to learn each other's personalities and skill sets. So luckily, we're kind of in different areas of the business, but we you just get along and have meetings and try to stay as organized the best you can.
And when did you start working there? When did you start killing bugs?
Right. You grow up and then you're like, man, I need to do something to make some money. And, you don't even think about this being a career or being an organizational leader one day and having a vision and all this kind of stuff. You're just thinking, I need some pocket change to run around in and buy stuff with. So after my 11th grade year, when I got my license, and when I was a junior in high school, I was like, hey, Dad, I need something to do. I went to my granddad. My granddad was still alive. Then I said, I need a job. And so he said, come on in and be a termite helper, which is a lot of grunt work. It's crawling up under houses. In back we have baiting systems now, but back then we would drill holes in the up underneath the house, multiple holes on a brick or whatever, and then all the piers, and then we would drill the brick around the outside of the house. Then you'd have to pump chemical in there and everything like that. And so I did that through, junior and senior year in high school. And then, so I was doing a lot of the grunt work, and I don't know what kind of language we can use. I don't use a lot of bad.
My name's on the microphone.
This is in the King James English, but the guy I was working with, he was kind of the regular worker, and I was just his helper. And he looked at my granddad and said, what do you want me to get him to do? It's like he goes, work his ass. That was my job is to work me. I mean, he was old school World War II. He's a great guy, very, very respected in town. Funny personality, all that kind of stuff. But real business-like. So, but that was fun. You kind of get your work ethic from that. And then in college, after I graduated high school, I went to college at the University of West Alabama. And it was the very first year. For some of you older people out there, you will remember that as Livingston University, a little small town about 60 miles kind of south from Tuscaloosa, and I was the first class in the fall of 1995 when it changed its name from Livingston to University of West Alabama. Went there as took some business classes there, and then after I was there for 2 years, and then I transferred to college. I wanted to go to a Christian college because I was I wanted to be a part-time youth minister while I was working too, so I could double major in some classes there. So transferred to the University of Mobile, a little small Baptist college. If any Mississippi people are listening, University of Mobile is kind of like the William Carey of Alabama. So it's you got your Mississippi College and your Samford, and then you got your William Carey and your University of Mobile. So and then I majored in business communication and was youth minister there. And I worked down there. You know, I went down there and I said, hey, I needed a part-time job when I was down there to make some money, and I worked at a car detailership. But I was like, hey man, if I can get the pest control, so I'm down there in Mobile, crawling all these crazy houses in Mobile, and doing a little bit of pest control and all that kind of stuff. So it was grunt work. You know, I was always trying to have a job somewhere. So I was going to school, working there, youth minister at a church. So I was keeping myself busy, and I'd done that for years. When I finished there in 1999.
What was your next step then?
Yes, so I finished college, and then I wanted to go to grad school, so I got into grad school at Samford up in Birmingham, and so I went there part-time and then came back and worked in the family business, then just picked back up, and I went from working in the termite department, you know, and inspecting houses, doing termite jobs, to being pest control, which is like you go inside houses and you take care of people. And you know, it's not just being a bug man, but the exciting thing about it, as far as like the business, is just that realize that you're in a servant business, you know, that you get to help people, you get to be a problem solver. And there's some awesome blessings that I got from being in the pest control business. Well, I'm, you know, going to school to learn how to be a youth minister. I'm a bivocational pastor now and everything like that. But I had a customer, an elderly couple, and I did their pest control for 8 years before I swapped back to termite when I was 30. But the man passed away. He's a big Bear Bryant fan. Well, you know, I'm just their exterminator that comes every month. But you build relationships with these people and become part of their family. Well, at his funeral, they had a nephew in Texas that could not make it back to be a pallbearer at the grandfather's funeral. So the guy who passed away, his wife called me up and said, hey, look, I know this is a crazy question, but you're kind of like part of our family. You know, we love you coming by every month and all that kind of stuff. He goes, would you be okay with being a pallbearer at my husband's funeral? And I was like, wow, I mean, like out of all the things, because, you know, you want to be a Christian and try to be and be Jesus, be the salt of the earth and the light of the world and all that kind of stuff. But, man, to have an honor of somebody asking you to be a pallbearer for just being the bug guy that comes by every month that becomes part of their family. And I was like, oh, my gosh, what an honor and a privilege was. And you know, I remember when we were standing there and their families come, oh, thank you so much for taking time. And you didn't have to say, I said, oh, no, this is one of the big deals of my life that somebody would think so highly of me to be a pallbearer for them after just being the bug guy that comes by. But you're part of people's life. Man, I've seen kids grow up. Because now I'm 48 years old now, and we're still getting old. I think it may be like 2 or 3 years older than I am. But now you're seeing kids that I used to step around that to spray their house because they were just being born and everything like that, and now they're leading these multi-million-dollar organizations. You know, and I'm like, wow, this is just crazy how you just see people grow right before you like that. It comes with age, you know. That's what happens. I've learned that's what happens when you get older.
I'm having a tough time seeing, because like I recognize kids, and the kids I haven't seen in 4 or 5 years, but I'm like, that looks like a little William Starks. Like they look so much like their parents.
Right.
And I know, like, oh my gosh.
Yes, my dad had his 80th birthday party. We had it at a venue there in Tuscaloosa, and all the employees were coming. And I not always seen all of their kids or something like that. But you can walk up, and I was like, I don't know what your name is, but I know who your dad is because you look just like him.
The best I ever had, took my wife to Antoine's restaurant in New Orleans, which is on Bourbon Street, and they have like the restaurant and then a little side bar that has the same food. Mm-hmm. And I was like, let me go try it. And I walked next door because we were dressed up, and I'm like, any chance we can get in here? And the girl's like, no, I'm sorry, but next door is the same food. I'm like, oh, she's already sitting over here. I was just checking. And like the older maitre d' guy's like, you have to be Bushy Krieger's son. Yeah. I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, y'all used to come here. Your dad came every other week for 20 years. I was like, I know. You look exactly like your father.
Wow.
And I'm like, that much? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I mean, the 75-year-old guy's like, and my dad's been dead for 20 years. You
wow,
know?
Yeah.
He's like, I was like, holy cow. Like, I might look a little too much like him.
Yeah, it's for our little funny joke is me and my sister, we look alike, but my little brother does not look like us at all. So I used to always tease him as a kid that he was adopted.
Yeah, there's the third kid always looks different.
Yeah, and I was like, why you look like the milkman, And so, but anyway, but yeah, we have fun with all that too. But that's right, and you look like your parents, how you grew up like that.
So how long have you been working at the
Burnham Pest?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I started when I was 16 years old, and I'm 48 now. So that's just do the math on that.
That's
so,
enough.
Yeah, that's enough. And so I've been doing that in kind of every aspect of the business. It's a different world. It's a crazy world. It's a world that's evolved over time. You do more than like just spraying stuff down. You do more like baiting now than you do more than spraying. Because back in the days, you're like, I want to kill this and kill these bugs and repel them away from my house. And now, like with some of your houses, we use a baiting system around the outside. And we say, in the termite world, if it's like, well, do I have termites at my house? And I always tell people this: if you could take some X-ray vision glasses and look up underneath your yard, you would see termites everywhere around up underneath your yard. And so we put out these baiting stations, and our goal is like, as termites forge towards your house, we want them to go to the baiting stations, and customers don't understand that. And once they're like, oh, you want them to go to the stations? Say, yes, we're on the offense. We put them in there and say, come and eat. Why? Because they're going to take that bait and they're going to take it all the way back to the colony. And the goal is that it kills the whole colony out, queen and everything. So you could have over 1 million termites in every colony, and you could have multiple colonies around the outside of your house. And so that's why we offer termite protection, because people talk about hurricanes and floods and tornadoes and all that. Every year, if you were to add up hurricanes, floods, tornadoes, all that kind of stuff, termite damage is more than all of that combined. And so that's how important it is to have a termite warranty on your house and have termite protection on your house and all that. So it's so that's why we provide that. And of course, then we provide like a general, household pest control. We come to people's houses monthly or quarterly and try to provide a service. And one thing I didn't like when I was coming out of college is I didn't like being called a bug man. I was like, bug man. I was like, man, I got a college degree. Somebody calling me a bug man, and you go in somebody's ritzy house. It's just the bug man or whatever like that. But then the older I get, the more I realize that, what this is we're in the public health field. We're in the public health field, and we're trying to provide a healthy home program, because if you've got roaches, it's not good for your breathing. They carry all this other kind of stuff, and mosquitoes is a new what we call an add-on program that we have, and say, hey, we're going to treat your house once a month for mosquitoes, and that way it can protect you from West Nile and all that other kind of stuff. And plus it's just it's no fun getting tagged by a mosquito. You're sitting there slapping your legs, and some people, I don't know what attracts them more. I have whatever type of I have on me. I don't know if I smell good or
carbon dioxide.
Yeah, I don't know if I smell good or smell bad, because if there's fleas in the room, they'll run to me before they'll run to you. If there's mosquitoes in the room, they'll run to me. They'll tag me before they get on somebody else. So it's just we're just trying to provide a healthy environment, and like with Dusty Roads, I'm saying, so you can have your Sunday school parties, your birthday parties, your weddings. You're coming up on this time of the year, and we have a monthly service. But another thing that we do about like special events is I always tell people, whether it's in Tuscaloosa or over here in Columbus, I was like, man, if you're going to have a wedding or an outdoor party, or trying to do some outreach for your church, whatever, let me know a few days ahead of time. Let me go treat the area right. That Bruce Johnson did that in our group.
Yeah, because he's got a pond across the street.
Yeah, that's right. So he was having a party over there, so we treated it before the parties, so you could have just an enjoyable experience out there. Because if you don't have it, and people, when I first came to BNI, that was the hardest thing for me to sell. It's the hardest, because people are like, you can't get rid of those. You can't get rid of those. But what happens is, once somebody gets it at their house, gets that service, then they are sold on it. And it's like, and we call it, you can call it a mosquito management program, a service, or mosquito reduction service, or however you want to call it. It may not kill every single one of them, but it's going to knock them down a lot where you can be outside.
The best testimony I have probably in B&I history was my neighbor, Holly Jeter, after y'all sprayed the second time.
Yes.
Came over to my house, sat in the backyard and had a beer, went back to his house, and he stared at me and came back around, and he's like, why don't you have mosquitoes in your yard? And it was, y'all had only come 2 months in a row. And I
Yeah.
live downtown Columbus. So we're right next to each other.
I remember exactly when we did that too.
Yeah, and he's like, how do you not have mosquitoes? I'm like, oh, this new guy I met just said he'd come spray them and prove the point, and he did it. And
yeah, and your customers sell that for you. You know, they sell that for you. Once they get
you stop thinking about it. Like I got bit like this week, and I'm like, I've worked in my yard all this weekend, and nothing happened.
Yeah, Leslie Mackey told me the other day. She goes, I didn't realize how good my mosquito service was till I went to somebody else's houses. I was standing out in their yard, and bam, I started getting.
She lives in the woods where she is.
Yeah, she has a lot of stuff around hers. Yeah.
So, how many employees or trucks do y'all have at your operation?
Over in Tuscaloosa, we have 45 employees, and that includes like the family around that. You know, it kind of fluctuates a little bit here and there. And then, so we kind of split that with, 5 or 6 termite guys and about 12 pest control guys, and we have my sister runs a tight ship in the office. We have specialized secretaries, about 10 secretaries in there, and so that was one of the things I had to learn. When you say, I'm just going to come over to Columbus and start a business from scratch, and you forget, growing up, I was third generation, so I had a service or something I need to get. I just go in there and give it to the secretary. They handle it all, and over here it's like, man, you got to be the secretary, you got to be the collector, you got to be everything.
So how long have you been over here? So it's called Golden Triangle Pest.
Golden Triangle Pest Control, and people that are around here know this more than I do. So, you're trying to think about what's a cool name to have, and then and it's like, well, they call, you learn to say what they call Columbus, West Point, and Starkville the Golden Triangle, and I was like, and then you come over here and you see Golden Triangle everything. There's and then they call Columbus the Friendly City, so I was like, well, it's Friendly City everything too. So, but we applied for there was a Golden Triangle Exterminators a long time ago, and I think the guy passed away, and then so we just came up with the name Golden Triangle Pest Control, and it's like it was open, so it stuck, and I was thinking, man, what a cool name. I'm all about names. You got to have a cool name for it where it can be kind of recognized, and love being over here, love coming to Columbus. Then we can talk about what do you do to get a company off the ground?
Yeah.
Well, I've been in B&I for probably going on, 8 or 9 years now, and so I just got some certificate the other day. It had been like there 7 or 8 years or whatever, and this is a couple years ago. So I said, hey, if you're going to start a business, the best thing you could do is come be in a referral group, meet some people, make some new friends. I'd been in it 8 years over there in Tuscaloosa, and see so the challenge that I have was a different situation. I walked into the B&Is in Tuscaloosa, not being in B&I my whole life, but knowing that they were out there, not really sure what they were, kind of being scared. You're like, what is this B&I thing, And then I joined, and people were like, hey, I've seen y'all's trucks all over town for years, but I've never met a Hahn before. And I was like, I finally get to meet somebody that's the name's on the side of the truck. So you become more a part of the community like that way. And man, the relationships that you build, which you know this because you're Mr. Relationship around town. You say, and when they introduce you for B&I, they'll say, one of the questions they ask you is, what's your key to success? And I always put on there this. I was like, no matter what business you're in, ultimately it's all about relationships. So to be able to get a business off the ground, to be able to meet some people and have friendships and build trust with one another, then you have that. So I said, I'm going to come to B&I over here. So I came over here. So I go from somebody who has an established business for 70 plus years, almost 80 years, and you just need to be a face on it, to coming over here where nobody knows you. You walk in a room and you are, and nobody knows who you are, and you're going to have to invent yourself and become who you are. So, met Cheryl Hubbard at the table, when I first came in here, and believe it or not, I sat beside the person I sat beside is Jason Morrow. Out of all the people to sit beside. And here's the crazy thing: Jason Morrow is one of my partners now over here at Golden Triangle.
And Jason Morrow is formative. Most people know him from Express Oil, 45, and then he worked his way up there. And
that's right. He's been over there for forever, and he's Mr. West Point. I think he knows everybody in West Point. So anyway, but he's just a good guy, invested in, uses his influence, and he's been in business for a long time. So doing that, so that we just enjoy being partners with him, and so just it's a good situation.
Now, some inside shop talk. So timing wise, it's probably been good and bad that we lost some local exterminators, got bought out by Wayne's, which is a big national
Right, yeah.
kind of holding. I call them like a holding group. Like
Right, yeah.
They have a big office out of town, and then they buy up smaller. And you can
That's
argue
right.
whether that's good or bad, but I would think it's somewhat good for you as the new guy on the block to have a couple of the established names go away, but then also bad to have a big company. They're not as big as Orkin, but they're pretty big.
Right. Yeah. They're a big company. They met with us and tried to, talk about maybe buying us out in Tuscaloosa like that. And so they call it growing by acquisition. So you can either go out there and try to get new customers on your own, or say, hey, we're a big company. Let's just buy up smaller companies and grow that way. And so what as a small business owner, what you would say is, hey, I'm just going to play the card that is most advantageous towards myself, which is like, hey, I'm local. Involved in the community. I go to B&I. You don't send your check to Birmingham or someplace like that's out of town, but you're with and I kind of use the same slogan I use in Tuscaloosa because locally owned and operated, and so we're locally owned and operated. The people that own it live around here. They're in the community. They go to church with you. They do all these activities and events and all like that. So and also, especially in Tuscaloosa, and as we hopefully build that more over here, is like then you give back to the community. You're a locally owned and operated person that you give back to the community. We over in Tuscaloosa, it's hard to find a baseball or softball field that don't have our name on it,
Yeah.
The big joke, because I'm not necessarily good at golf, but I buy thousands of golf tees every year, and they are golf tees all over the place. I drop them at every hole, and I play in almost every scramble in town, and so. Which is funny because this is a little side funny story. So somebody sent me a picture of one of my in my Tuscaloosa, my Burnham Pest golf tees from Pensacola, Florida, that they found there, which means somebody had to lose it there, and somebody else had to find it,
Yeah.
And so just let you know how much they go around like that. But this but to have that influence is like, hey, we're locally owned, we're operated. You can call me on my cell phone. You don't have a 1-800 number that you call to reach me, and so. And so that's what we do. We say, hey, we're locally owned and operated, and you can get in touch with us, and we'll get out there ASAP.
That was a funny thing growing up in New Orleans. We were talking about baseball fields, and they'd say the signs on the baseball field, they call them hyphens.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what that meant. I never understood it when I was a kid. And then when I was around 13 or 14, I asked my dad, I'm like, what do you mean hyphens? And he's like, they're all old established business like Burnham Pest, and they were all these Ladder and Bloom Realty. There were all these companies with two names because they'd been joined together after the year. And that's who sponsored sports teams in New Orleans was the companies that had been Ashman Malaire Realty. All these companies that had two names because they had joined forces at some point. And I thought about it. I'm like, I remember looking at the field, and it was like 20 different companies that all had two names. I was like,
right.
And so I always thought about your name. I'm like, that's an old school kind of name.
Yeah. That's cool.
So yeah, I guess some advantage with a couple of local people going away, but also, like you said, you established an office here. You had to get going,
and most people that are kind of like really strong in community places like Columbus is like you want to use somebody local, and so we always in my radio ads that I do over in Tuscaloosa, I'm like, hey, stay local because I got to deal with the same thing over there. You got these big mega companies with bigger budgets and more billboards and all that kind of stuff, and you just got to find your niche in this society.
Orkin still around?
They're around, but they
Orkin and Terminex are the old
they're
school ones.
Right. They're the real big dogs, and so they're around. And I'm not saying that they're bad or anything like that. I'm just saying if you're a small business owner and you're in the pest control company, you kind of want to promote that you can call us.
Yeah, and I'm not casting aspersions on Orkin or Terminex is the second biggest one, or they're the two.
I think Terminex is the biggest. I think
Terminex is the biggest.
I think
and
so.
Listen. Just because they don't like puppy dogs.
That's right.
And maybe they kick them when they go to houses. I'm not saying they do.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not saying that's what I've heard
not saying yes
from
or no
my friends that they dislike puppy dogs. And you, correct me if I'm wrong, love all animals.
Love all animals.
Except rodents and pests. You even have some love for them.
We get
termites,
we get rid of them. We get rid of them.
Where do you draw the line on? There's always a line that usually starts with a B between bats and bees. And there, do y'all have to draw a line anywhere?
Well, you have to be careful because for bees on certain bees and everything because they're protected. You got to be careful with bats and downtown Columbus. You have to deal with stuff like that around their town. So and then I had some employees in Tuscaloosa that used to work at the University of Alabama, and I said, what, you work for the pest control department over there? What do you do? He goes, man, I spent 90% of my time getting bats out of buildings. They just hide up there, you'd go in, and then like, what do you do with them? Being a protected species, so they'd have a bat house. Like you dress up like Batman, go over there, whatever. But and you put it in the bat house so it just lives that way. Bats do eat mosquitoes though, so I mean they do have some positive about them. So. But yeah, they're funny.
They're not fun to find in your house.
No, they're not. They're not. I'll tell you a funny story. And I was doing this pest control, and I thought I was at the end of the world. I'd passed all these roads and everything, and I didn't know if I could go any further where I was at. And I was spraying around the outside of this house. This was when I was, in high school or got right out of college, whatever. And I saw something that looked like a dead bat or something like that on the ground. And I was like, look at that dead bat. So I just sprayed, and I said, I'm just going to spray on that dead bat right there. Man, I sprayed on that thing, and I started seeing those wings coming up, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I just turned it, and it was like a slow-mo thing in a movie. And then the only weapon I had was my sprayer hose, but I threw it up in the air so I could run. So I was like, no, and I'm throwing it, and I'm running. I see it coming up, and I can see it coming behind me right now. And I was like, oh gosh. And then I ran around the corner, and I could you could almost feel it like right in your neck, and it flew and went straight somewhere else. And I was like, oh gosh. I was like, that was crazy. These bat stores or something else. One more quick bat story while we're at it. You bring up all these memories. So I was doing this real ritzy house up at the yacht club in Tuscaloosa, and I would put a glue board in the attic just to see if you catch some ice up there or something like that. Well, went up there, and the kids were like, hey, come in here, look at my attic right here, see if you see anything in here. I went in there, there's a glue board there, and there is a bat that is all laid on its back, man, right here, and it is alive, and it's got his wings stuck on the glue board, and it's got those teeth in there making that teeth noise at you. You're like, oh my gosh, this looks like somebody has a scary movie or whatever like that. And then the parents was like, yeah, just go on in, my kids are fine, whatever. They were coming home from work, and I was like, all right, kids. So I'm about to get my gloves, and I'm gonna put this in a bag because I can't really do anything with it, And so I said, I'm gonna put it in the trash can. So tell your mom it's in the trash can when you get outside. Probably gonna die and stink or whatever. So I'm going through and a week later, I'm driving through the same subdivision or whatever, and the mom is walking, just getting her walk-in for the day. She was a doctor, so I guess it was her day off, whatever. And I said, hey, did your kids tell you about that crazy bat that we saw on the glue board and everything? And she goes, yeah, we felt so sorry for that bat on that glue board, so we looked up and we put some oil on that and peeled his wings off of the glue board and set it free. And I'm like, what? And I was like, as the thing bites you have rabies or something like that. But you never know, and you got to be careful. Somebody, my dad's got a customer he used to do, and those big spiders that they have that'll be like, he's like, can I kill Charlotte? Charlotte's web. Can I kill? No, I like looking at it every morning. Don't kill my spider. Just kill the roaches and everything else. So. It's just funny, people's personalities and what they're like. It's also how much time we got?
Whatever.
Oh, okay,
funny.
Yeah. One more funny story. So transitioning from bats to spiders. Some people are not scared of spiders. Some people are scared of spiders. In fact, when we became a $1 million company in Tuscaloosa back in the day, it was the year that the movie Arachnophobia came out. It just put us over that hump there. So I went out to this big tough guy's house one time, and he was like, yeah, he goes, I just wanted to get some pest control. My wife, man, she saw a spider the other night, and she didn't like it. She was real scared and everything, and so I just want to make sure got the place sprayed for her. She won't be scared. I said, all right, hey, no problem. Do the best, So treat it inside, treat the outside, doors, windows, all the normal stuff, eaves, and all that kind of stuff. Left, came back the next month. Husband's at work, wife's at home, and I said, hey, how are you doing? I said, have you seen any spiders or anything? I said, your husband, he told me that you maybe had a scary experience with that or everything like that. She said, he told you what? He said, he was up on the kitchen chair a couple of weeks ago. That's why we called you, because he saw a spider, and this big old 300-pound guy jumped up on this chair in the kitchen acting like a little girl, And so I was like, oh, gosh. So, you get funny stories like that where, it'll be like, actually, it's the husband that's scared or whatever, and then, the wife will make fun of him. So, anyway, you just roll with the punches on all that stuff,
We when we moved up here after Katrina, we bought a log cabin here and had a bunch of bees and all kind of stuff outside. We got help with that. And so we're in there like 2 months, and we thought we heard something. I thought it was a squirrel or something, and it was bats.
Yeah.
2 bats that we had like screened in the porch, and I think we had trapped them inside or whatever.
Right.
And I didn't know the inspiration of why I did this, but I went and got, and you'll probably know where I'm headed with this, I went and got a big, big jacket and put it on and zipped it up, put on like boots, and tucked in my boots, put in gloves, and I had a broom and a tennis racket, and I put a clothes basket over my head.
Yeah,
which is what John Candy did in The Great Outdoors.
You got to learn.
But I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
So I'm glad there weren't cell phone cameras around then in a prodigious manner, because like I went around and like chased it around the house.
Yeah.
And like screaming, like,
oh my God.
And it landed on the thing and it's like looking at me, and I'm like, but I got him outside, and then
it's those kind of like that stories are funny. And I'll tell you a squirrel story. So this lady, and this was and she had a church in her house, and she goes, I got church in my house, but I got a squirrel in here running around my kitchen. I got to get him. I got to get him out of. So me and one of my other employees went over there, and I said, all right. So we've got these like a broom or like a Webster that we get like spider webs out with. So he was gonna scare the squirrel out from the kitchen, and we had the door open. So my job was to baseball bat and hit it, and when it comes out. And so finally he goes, it's about to come out. I was like, all right, I'm ready, whatever. And then, man, that squirrel came out and came looking at me, and your eyes get big, and his eyes were big, and he just ran right between my legs and flew and ran through the house. So finally, and we're swatting at this thing, and I broke the Webster over my buddy's leg trying to swipe at it. So finally, after with our broken Websters and everything, we finally got this squirrel out of the house so this lady could have church on Sunday in some kind of a peace. But you think about that. Everybody ought to write a book about the stuff that you deal with houses and stuff like that, and things that you see in there. But man, if you know a bugman or exterminator, they've always got some kind of story to tell about either a crazy situation with a bug or a wild animal or something like that too. Now, one thing that's not fun you don't want to deal with is snakes.
See, I have I would say an abject non-fear of snakes.
Right.
Me and my friends collected them when we were kids. We went out in the woods of Louisiana and like hunted them. I've picked up poisonous snakes that I shouldn't have.
Right.
And I've only grabbed one snake in the last 10 years, but I'm not sitting there going, oh, like this.
Yes.
And it's funny because like I know cops that you could have the most meanest pit bull in the world, and they'll walk right up to pit bulls that have bitten children in it when I was with the newspaper.
Right.
And they walked up and like told the dog to get there, and that dog was like knew that cop wasn't afraid of him. And that dog was like,
it's funny how animals can smell fear, So
that's it's dangerous to be around huskies and stuff, and like those wolfhounds and closer to wolf breeds where they're like they know if you're scared, and like you could be the nicest dog in the world and they'll just come eat you.
All right. And then one more funny story. So I was a dog lover my whole life, and then something happened like in 2015 or 16 because I was not a cat fan at all, because I would do pest control, and there'd be cats. You don't know where they are, but they know where you are, and there'd be a cat, and you're looking down when you're spraying, and then they had the big box TVs back in the day. There'd be a cat sitting up on there. It would freak me out, and I don't have to keep myself.
I just don't like how they can mortally wound you at any point. Like you can know a cat for 5 years, and he'll just be like,
yeah, bam, just for no reason. And so, but then I became a cat fan or whatever, and so I'm like the cat daddy now. I just kind of take them all in my house. But anyway, so I let them out. So I'll leave the door open in my house at nighttime if it doesn't run my air conditioner bill up too much, and I'll just kind of let them go in and out so they'll just have their own little piece. Otherwise, they'll sit there and rah until they wake you up or whatever. So, but you got to be careful, because when you leave the door open, stuff can come in your house. And so my problem is I heard something in there in the kitchen. I was like, oh gosh, 'cause sometimes the neighbor's house cats will go in there and you start wrestling something like there. So I'm like, of course I name my cats after wrestlers, So I go in there and I was like, Roman Reigns, what's the deal? What's the problem? And then I got another two girl cats that are sisters, and so I named one of them Sister Abigail, which is after Bray Wyatt's finishing move. It's not even a wrestler; it's a finishing move. And so Sister Abigail, what are you doing? And then her sister is a black cat with white on it, and I thought it was going to be a boy, so I named him Godzilla or Zilla for short. And then I found out it's a girl, so I went with Lady Gaga. So I got Roman Reigns, Sister Abigail, Lady Gaga, and I walk in there, and it was at Halloween, so they're in there, and I think they're messing around with the candy, on the table, whatever. So I go in there and look at them, and I was like, "Hey, cat," and I'm like, "Possum on my table." Just sitting there on the table, just like right here, just eating Halloween candy. Like, what's up? And I'm like, "Hey, dude, you ain't supposed to be here, and I know you're here because you stink." They smell different than everything else. So I got to get the thing and run that thing around the house and run it outside, and I would leave it open for but it got in my house like 4 or 5 times, and I was like, "Oh gosh," I said, "I got to start closing the door, man." But it's just funny, man. Different environments are
well, like I had that big groundhog right when you joined, like 4 years ago.
Yeah, we kept trying to catch it.
And you brought me a cage. We put food in it, and we're out there, and it's like the dude's working on the house and me, and you had just left like an hour ago, and we had cabbage and carrots in there.
Right? Yeah.
And this dude just walked up, went in a cage, held up his back right leg, held the cage door from falling.
Yeah.
Like. You couldn't train a dog to do that.
Right, yeah.
Dragged the food out, went back in, did the same thing, and he walked out, essentially reset the trap. And I'm like, what just like he was just like, I mean, there's a trap with a cage supposed to fall, and he's just he's holding it up and shooing the food out, and then he just brings the food out of the house, and like one of the guys was in his way, and he literally is like holding the food in his mouth, and he's kind of like, you're in my way, dude. And we're like, well, this dude is. He comes with the house.
That's right. He has been there. He goes, "I'm part of the neighborhood. Y'all moved into my area. I didn't move in."
Yeah, and so what eventually happened was we were fixing a little trim piece by a driveway and adding some concrete.
Yeah.
And one of the guys was like, the concrete kept going to the house. And I'm like, I bet you that's his little den. Mm-hmm. And we did that. And like the next day, he's like bringing his food out. Same thing, looking at us like, you messed up my whole house.
A couple of rat stories for I don't know how much time I got, but a couple of my stories. So across the street over here, I put some 2 rat boxes out, saying, "Hey, put them by the dumpsters. That's where the rats are going to be," or put them up against a wall where they're going to run or something like that. And so I opened up one of the rat boxes, and I was like, all right, it ate some of the rat. It's ate some of the bait, so those are going to die. And I said, let me go check this other one. And I opened up the other one. No rat poison was eaten at all, but all of the crawfish leftovers were in there. So they literally took the dumpster and used this rat box just to come hang out at and eat. They would take their trash in there and put it in there in the rat box, and then they'd go eat the poison out of the other box. But they used one of mine as a party box or whatever. So, and of course, the 3 main, what we call commensal rats in the business, and the word commensal rats means that they eat at the table with you. Boy, that's a scary definition right there. So the 3 commensal rats are the house mouse, which is what you deal with mostly, they come in and whatever. And then you got the roof rat, and those are the people, those are the rodents that are up on top of buildings. And the thing about the roof rat is that the tail is just as long as the body. So if you ever see a rat like that, and I'll tell a story for that in a second. Then you got the one that's bigger than that is called the Norway rat, and these guys are just big, husky offensive line rats or whatever. These are linemen. And if you have like they stay on the ground. They don't stay up in the air. And if you got like a barn or something, they're the ones that's digging holes around all that. But when you have you get a squirrel trap and you say, I need to, I'm seeing something. Somebody thought it was a squirrel that got in their business. So we put the squirrel trap in there, and then we came back, and there wasn't a squirrel in there. It was a roof rat. And so then you have this massive rat in there who's got this huge tail that's sticking out of the daggum trap because it's so long. Of course, you say, well, God, why did God make a roof rat with a long tail? Well, I guess so it could balance itself, when it's up running around and all the stuff it does up in the air like it's Batman or something like that. So. But anyway, you deal with all these different bugs and learn all these different things from them.
Well, we keep referencing wrestling. So, where did your love for wrestling or your first memory of it come up?
Oh, man. And let me tell you, so my and probably most people who's around my age about the Saturday morning wrestling, because you did have the WWF back then, and then you had not the WCW, but the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance. And that's when you had the 4 horsemen with Ric Flair and Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard and Ole Anderson, or whoever else they put in there and that. But my favorite of all time, tag team wise, I had two favorite tag teams, and they were opposites. My favorite one was the Rock and Roll Express.
Oh, yeah.
Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson. And actually, that one of them opened up a little store there in Northport one time, so I got to meet Robert Gibson. But Ricky Morton was like, hey, I thought he was the coolest thing back in the day with his mullet, that's why I ended up having a mullet in high school and all that kind of stuff. Cruising around, they were just the cool cats. Everybody loved them. They cheered. They may have been the first wrestlers that ever came to the ring with music. Whoever started the whole playing music as you go to the ring, and so they were cool. And then there's them and the Midnight Express and all that kind of stuff. And Bobby Eaton was on the Midnight Express, which it's funny. The character wise, he's a great guy behind the scenes, but he played a bad guy. He's actually from Huntsville, Alabama, and he passed away a few years ago. But then but they always had there, and Jim Cornette with the tennis racket going around banging people and all that kind of stuff. The other one that I liked beside the Rock and Roll Express was the Road Warriors, man. Oh man, and so they were just, man, they come and you hear that music hit, and then I guess they were the Road Warriors in NWA, but then when they got to WWF, they were the Legion of Doom. But it didn't matter, they were just the same people. And then you got the Mohawk and the Faux Hawk and all whatever they had, and so they were some bad dudes, man. And then come to the ring with the pads with the spikes on them and everything like that. They were cool. And then, of course, everybody loved Sting and Lex Luger too. Back in the day, so they were cool. They were cool.
Yeah,
as
soon as when they get to like the late '80s, early '90s, Brutus Barber, Beefcake, all that sort of stuff, like they were finding their way. And then I didn't pay attention for a while until, like you said, until around '99, 2000.
And I think Vince McMahon in the '80s, he had a lot of people that were like more like characters, like the Brutus the Barber, Beefcake type thing, and the Bird, and all this kind of stuff. He'd always have some kind of like they did something for a living, like an exterminator or something like that. I don't know, but that's kind of where it started off back then. And of course, Hulk Hogan was just everybody's. He was bigger than life, and he passed away, not too long ago too. And so I have no idea how Ric Flair's still alive. I mean, I don't
the worst of them all. Yeah,
yeah, that's right.
And he's still doing the same thing. Like I saw him get in trouble in an airport a couple of years ago.
Yeah. And I tell you what, they had that video out about like Ric Flair's life, and you always think, well, there, you got Hulk Hogan and you got Ric Flair, and they were just the two big dogs, and what did one of them think about the other one, or whatever. And and somebody asked Hulk Hogan and said, what do you think about being the greatest wrestler of all time? He goes, if you want to know who the greatest wrestler of all time was, which this was very complimentary, because the thing, he goes, you need to go ask Ric Flair, because Ric Flair's the greatest wrestler of all time. Because you got to think, he toured around.
He worked, he worked.
Yeah, man, he worked so much, and then tough on the family like that when you have that stuff too, and so. But it's just.
I don't think he's ever been accused of being a family man.
That's right. I don't ever know why he got married, because it's like
there's no redeeming end to his like at the end. He's like, but he settled down. No, like he hasn't.
Yeah. So he is, and I saw him the other day on TikTok doing like a deadlift or something like that. But he's something else. But it was just them, and of course Macho Man and all that, and King Kong Buddy and Big John Studd and so all that, man. It's just like stuff that then they'd make cartoons about it when you're and all that. So but yeah, that was just cool to.
Did you get to go to many events when you were a kid?
I did. I actually went a few years ago. Back in, like, it was maybe 2016, 2017, I went to one of the live shows, and I spent the money, man. And I got on purpose. I got, like, how they come around, they come down, they walk up the stairs, I got the front seat right there, so I was the guy that was trying to give them high fives, and they wouldn't give you a high five type thing, So that was just, it was an event, man. It was something else. And I was just amazed about how cool everyone was around. Everybody was just enjoying it, having a good time, and you never know what you're going to expect there. But I really had a good time there, and it would be cool to go to a WrestleMania or something like that one day. Boy.
Yeah, I think the last time I was in the early 2000s, they came back to New Orleans for something.
Yeah, they did. I was there the day before there, but that was pretty cool that they came there too.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm trying to think at the same time. This might have been Goldberg and all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Goldberg was the big deal.
Having Goldberg, Sting, Stone Cold Austin, The Rock, all in that same era, that was kind of cool because, like, no matter what show you watched, even if you're just stopping at a bar, there's going to be something just so absurd.
Yeah, that's right.
And like I said, I watched a documentary on The Rock, his wrestling thing, where once he finally let go and started acting up, and told people to shut up.
Right? Yeah. That's
doesn't matter what you think.
That's right. And then, but I think that I guess because in my view, being from the South, most wrestling fans are kind of like country people or whatever. But that's why I think probably, and as cool as Hulk Hogan was, but if Ric Flair said this about money wise, Stone Cold basically just made the world go round, and you hate that he didn't keep on having a long career because he had that neck injury, but man, he was something else. And when that glass breaks, man, everybody just goes.
That was crazy.
It goes crazy, man.
Well, that was also it was so absurd because now I think that now you would think that the internet would ruin a lot of it, and even the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Not the internet, but magazines were kind of saying so and so. But you didn't know 3 shows a week, and I wasn't watching. I mean, I might watch Monday Night Raw or something, but every once in a while after a Saints game, I'd catch the Sunday night thing.
Yeah.
And then you'd hear the glass break. Stone Cold doing?
And then you had Stone Cold, and then you had The Rock after that. So you kind of had to the 2 back-to-back guys, and they're it's hard to beat those guys. I don't know if anybody could ever be as hot as those guys because, The Rock was just the ultimate talker, man, and he had the smack talk and all of his phrases and all that kind of stuff. And
well, Goldberg had that good part where he was a bad guy and a good guy.
Yeah,
The Rock kind of had that, but Goldberg would come save the day.
Right. And that's how Stone Cold, they wanted to make Stone Cold a bad guy, but he was the first heel that everybody started rooting for, And so that's what made him so cool. So they just went with it on him, man. And that's wild, yeah. And then, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, all that kind of stuff, all those stories. And everybody, when you get older, you say, well, what's going on behind the scenes is causing all this stuff and all the drama that people would have and all the real stuff that would go backstage and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, but it's something else. It's just fun, and the older you get, you can kind of be like, all right, here's the storyline, and I kind of know who's going to win this match. And then you get to WrestleMania, you really don't know who's going to win then, unless you think, well, it'd be better if this guy put this other guy over, or whatever. So, but it's just trying to figure it out. And the thing that I like the most about, and this happens during WrestleManias too, because they always have these surprises that somebody's going to come out that you didn't expect. So my favorite thing about wrestling now is when I'm trying to think about what's going to happen when they surprise me and do something that I had no idea that was going to come. That just kind of this is just the shock factor, It's that was so good.
Yeah, I see clips of documentaries probably because we're friends, and it shows up on my phone, and that's where they're talking about bringing people into the control room and teaching the 30-year-old wrestler hey, you better get ready. You're not going to be able to wrestle forever.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You got to plan for all that stuff. So we were wrestling with bugs this time of the year though. So and then as far as how much time we got left? Just a few minutes.
10 minutes.
Okay.
So,
all right. Let's talk about. And you can give me your opinion on this too. Is you're building a business, and what are some important things from maybe the foundational starting off and just some things that you want to pursue as a business, and because I was trying to think of a few things on the way here. Is here's some things to remember. One of the things that I think about is, nobody's perfect. None of us are perfect. I wish we would never make mistakes like that. But it's just you have to just teach this and teach, the people that you hire is hey, just pursue excellence. You can't pursue perfection. Nobody's perfection, but pursue excellence, and then in whatever you do. And also, if there's one thing, and because, I did after college, I went to grad school. And so I finished my Master of Divinity at Liberty, and I got emphasis in leadership there. And then a few years later, I went to Palm Beach Atlantic University in West Palm Beach, Florida. So I actually flew down there every week to go to school, which is pretty cool to see over at Palm Beach area. And then I've been in Trump's Mar-a-Lago over there, and that's just bigger than life here for a country boy from Alabama or whatever like that. But really enjoyed my time down there. Made some good friends down there in class. Then went to Dallas Baptist and had so many frequent flyer miles, and I was a communication major for undergraduate. I said, I'm going to go take some communication majors. So I got that communication leadership. So everything had an emphasis in organizational communication leadership, Christian leadership, or whatever. And then, but most important thing is when somebody comes in, you have to determine what's the right fit for them, So that's what I focus on, is trying to say, hey, we need to put the right people in the right places, know their giftedness, know their strengths and weaknesses. And as a leader, you try to encourage them along the way. It's important to be empathetic as a leader, to be kind as a leader, to always prepare and give them opportunities to grow, whether it's the business field, the realtor field, the pest control field or whatever like that. We I'm over in Tuscaloosa. I make all the guys pass all these supervisors tests. Like if they were a supervisor 100 miles away from the main branch in Alabama, you have to have a supervisor's license. I make all my guys pass that, whether they're ever going to be a supervisor or not, just to raise the standard and say, hey, man, this is important what we do, and you need to be careful about your, it's always a safety question too when you're dealing with chemicals and things like that, but also be safe. Know how to apply it, where to apply it, how much to apply, what to look for, what we call conducive conditions, for termites, whether it's wood beside a house or standing water for mosquitoes or termites or whatever else, like that. But what are some things that you say, hey, these are really important in business?
Showing up when you say you're going to show up, that's just, that's showing up on time.
A lot of people talk about that in B&I too. We show up on time.
Answering the phone and showing up on time. That's a big, the expectation of you showing up there, especially in a business where, you're always, not always in a rush, but people calling you are usually, I mean, you have monthly treatment, that's one thing, but like, when somebody sees a rat, like,
I got rats, I
don't want to sleep.
I got ants, my husband's scared of spiders. He's running around or something like that. You got to be ready to go. I mean, and everybody wants to be busy, but you also have to create margin in your business and know, say, hey, when do I take that risk on hiring that extra employee, even though I don't necessarily have enough for him, but I can grow that route or grow that situation because, like at Tuscaloosa, we have route guys, but then we also have like one-time service guys. So if somebody calls and say, I got something, say we'll be out there.
Yeah, and that's a hard part, like in a relatively new market like this for you, where you've got like 2 termite inspections today and nothing else, and then somebody calls about bats, and then somebody else calls about
and you have to cross train so much, So it's that's important, man. Yeah, but you're out on that show up, especially in any kind of service business, and we have a lot of those in B&I, whether it's Benton, with the air conditioners and all the other guys in there. It's just good. I was talking to BJ before here. He does the landscaping. He goes, can I talk about a little bit of pests in my landscaping in my speech this week? I said, man, absolutely, man. I said I want to learn something from you because he deals with stuff that I always deal with.
Freaking groundhogs downtown here.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I see him just walking around down when I'm just driving around.
That's what I'm telling you. The animals in downtown Columbus are just fearless.
Yeah,
like the mammals, as I say, they're just like looking right at you. Like
they're like a deer in some of the ritzy neighborhoods around town. They'd be like the deer. They just walk through there. I saw a fox walking down the road the other day next to the.
We have one at Remax. There's a red fox. Like,
yeah,
I'm a city boy.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
like, the groundhogs downtown. Plus they're bigger. I think everybody thinks of them looking like little gerbils.
Right.
They're pretty big, and
they
fit in these little small holes. And I don't know how to get rid of them other than to bother them. You may have some secrets, but I've heard of spearmint gum and go like Caddyshack and blow them up.
Yeah. You gotta. Sometimes we used to smoke them out. We'd have this thing that looks like a stick of dynamite. And you'd stick it in one end of the hole, and you'd.
I mean, I tell you, having a neighbor with a terrier is pretty good. Those little dogs. Go after them. And really, we have one that shows up in my neighborhood every other year and just bothering it. Yeah, because like I can see the holes from one day to the next, and like you literally put some sticks in their tunnels for a couple days, and then they'll go bother somebody else.
Right. Yeah.
I'd go through a lot of sticks though.
Yeah, and that's not the funny thing about, back to the cat thing real quick before we close is like, they'll bring something to the house, they'll catch a mouse, they catch rabbits and stuff like that, and I'm like, they bring it up because they're just trying to add. It's like, hey, I'm bringing this for you, so maybe you can cook it and eat it tonight. I'm just making sure I'm paying my rent, bringing all this stuff in. So they're fun. Birds, man, they'll catch a bird and I'd come in and there'd be feathers everywhere, and I'm like, oh gosh. You guys are something else.
Yeah, my dogs don't bring anything home. The cats, both of the cats, we have 2 cats. When we first got them, both brought a bird, right on cue. Like, you let me outside. Thank you. Here's your bird. And one of them brought it in our bed, which wasn't real cool.
All right, yeah.
Here you go, and the bird's still kind of shaking.
That's right. They're not quite dead yet.
Nightmare fuel. But cats are evil. We all know that.
Yeah, that's right.
I tend to love them.
They are.
Both my cats have sat in my lap and purred, and then sat there for like an hour, and then just stood up and went.
Yeah. Then they go kill something, bring it inside. You're like, what the most gentle thing in the world, and bam, you never know.
So, how do people reach out if they want to use you or support you?
All right, Golden Triangle Pest Control and goldentrianglepestcontrol.com. And then we have and I always use like an acronym for my phone. It's cool to have a number. So we're 662-710-7378, or you could spell PEST. So 662-710-PEST or 662-710-7378. Golden Triangle, we try to be, our slogan, servant leaders in pest management.
And if they want to reach you over in Tuscaloosa?
So, if you can hear this in Tuscaloosa, Burnham Pest Exterminators, 205 553-4433. Press and send. And let Burnham Pest Exterminators put some serious pain on the mosquito population.
That's one of the top 100 wrestlers of all time.
Yeah,
We're gonna have to let him.
He's
Gonna have to let him know that on Twitter so
Yeah.
he knows he's good. So. All right, brother. Well, appreciate you coming in today.
I loved it. Thank you. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate everything you mean to me, but also the city of Columbus as well. And thank you for letting God use you to do all this stuff.
All right. Thanks, man. Hey, guys. Thanks for listening to the podcast. My name is Colin Krieger, and my day job is real estate. If you're looking to buy or sell, I'd love to talk to you. Or if you just want to sit and talk real estate in a no-pressure situation, I'd love to help you. I work with RE/MAX Partners in Starkville, Columbus, and West Point, Mississippi. I can help you find an agent anywhere in Mississippi or anywhere in the country. Just reach out to our office at 662-327-7705 or find me anywhere when you type in 662-329-SOLD.